Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Wildboro podcast. I wanted to start today by talking about the podcast itself, and the podcast will probably never be the same again. I sat down to read the New York Times over the weekend, and I literally started to fall asleep almost immediately. So I took that as a sign that probably that part of the show is in the past, and just thinking about it more, like I did like the first couple episodes, but the main problem is like I'm just telling you about all these problems, and I'm not giving you a solution or something you can do about it. So I mean that would get really depressing after a while, and I guess those things are important to be aware of, but it's important to be able to distinguish between things that are in your control and things that are out of your control. And I mean stuff that's out of your control, you kind of just have to let it go. And a lot of that stuff is out of all of our control, as much as we like to think that we live in a democracy and all that. Like a lot of that's out of our control. So I think it was really good that I identified this other problem, this widespread happiness problem, and that's really good because, well, it's not good that the problem's there, but it's good that we can identify that now because that's something that is in our control individually, and that's something that we can address. And when we all start taking small steps to address this, we're all going to feel happier, and that's really good, and that's going to change things in a good way. So if you liked last week's episode, get ready for more of that, and you're going to become a big part of this show. I mean, you are going to be the show, and then eventually even more than that. So I'm going to get into that later, but yeah, if you like the first two episodes, didn't like last week, then probably you can stop listening to the podcast. But for everyone else, buckle up. So having said that, I'm going to move to something that's a little bit different, which is good news, which you don't find in the New York Times a lot. But so I put that episode out there last week. Didn't really know how people would react to it, but I actually got some immediate results from that. And one of you listeners out there has completed the challenge. So I don't know if this is going to really count because it involved me, but you did complete the challenge. So I hope that this was a really great thing for you. But so I recorded the episode last week and I sent it out to friends and family, and I'm like making dinner that night, and I got a FaceTime call on my phone, which never happens. And it's one of my friends from high school and college, and he listened to the episode and he really liked it, and he was calling me just to say hi, and it was great. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like otherwise I would have just been kind of sitting around like surfing the web or something, and instead I caught up with one of my good friends. We were roommates in college, so like we literally lived in the same in the same room, along with one of our other friends, and so we know each other pretty well, and we just got to talk and catch up for like probably close to an hour, and it was really awesome. So it was cool to hear all the good things going on in his life, and I was able to share what I'm up to and stuff. And we uh, we might be trying to meet up in a few months to do something really fun together. So I don't know if that will end up working out or not, but it might. We realistically might do that, and that's awesome. So that's everything that came out of. I told him, it's like we're tapping on our phones all day, and he tapped my name, and then like look at everything that came out of that. So that's awesome. I will be calling him back next month, and hopefully we can keep that going. And so that's great. And had some other reactions. So there's another friend who listened to the show, and we're gonna talk tonight just to catch up, which is great. My mom listened to the show, and hi mom, if you're listening, thanks for listening. She sent me a related podcast by a Yale professor who teaches this happiness class at Yale, and um, I don't actually have her name offhand. I think her last name is Santos, but she was talking about she noticed the same problem. Like all these students at Yale weren't happy, and because she was actually, I guess they have this program where the teachers live with students in certain cases, and everyone was like stressed out and anxious. And they've done surveys at Yale where it's like 60% of the student body has like anxiety to the point where it's like affecting them on a daily basis. So the number in reality, I think, is probably even higher. I mean, I think we're all dealing with some kind of chronic stress or anxiety or something. But she teaches this class about happiness, and one of her solutions includes this social connection piece. So that was cool, and just it. I felt somewhat validated, I guess. But so if you're interested in that, you can check it out. I guess the course is available for free online, but that's great. But I guess I have my own solution, which is this New Year's challenge I gave to everyone, and I'm taking more of like a spiritual take on this thing, which I'm going to talk about more today. So but that was cool that my mom listened to the podcast and was inspired by it, and that's great. And finally, in the end of the good news, I had two friends text me a photo of them listening to the show, and that was cool to see. So it's been a really cool way to connect with everyone, and you're probably listening to the show right now. And I just wanted to say hi and thinking of you, and glad you like the show. So this next segment's kind of the main part of the show this week, and I want to talk about God. So it's kind of like talking about love. I mean, it's one of these issues or topics or concepts that like it's really close to us every single day, and we almost never talk about it like on a societal level. I mean, I do want to mention religion and religion's role in this. I think that one reason why people don't talk about God a lot is that a lot of people have had a bad experience with religion, and I don't think everybody has. I don't want to. I'm not going to talk negatively about religion. I mean, if that's an important part of your life and it's helping you, that's awesome. So personally, I did not have a good. uh, I guess I was going to religious school growing up, and it just didn't really appeal to me, and the whole thing just it didn't click with me at all, and I didn't like the experience, and so as at a relatively young age, I gave up on religion. But the problem is when I stopped thinking about religion, I also stopped just thinking about like spirituality in general, and that I think is an issue in our society is that we don't really talk about spirituality and the importance of like just having a personal, some sort of personal understanding of these spiritual ideas. And maybe a lot of you do think about that, which is good. But I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that a lot of spirituality has become tied up with religion, and maybe that's why people aren't thinking about it either. But I want to encourage everyone to at least start thinking about spirituality and just what that means to you, and try to start to think of coming to some sort of peace with this spiritual component that we all have. And this I think is related to the happiness issue because if you develop this spiritual connection, then you're going to have this like stable base of just inner peace and calm that you can always go back to. And we all have a lot of crazy situations going on in our lives, and just the way the world is now, there is all this bad news all the time, and we have these stressful jobs and everything. And throughout all of that, like we have this place of peace and calm inside of us that we can tap into. And that's really what I'm talking about when I talk about God. And I'm going to intentionally use other words to describe that thing, um, this like peaceful thing that's in the world, um, so that if when you think of God, you just immediately think about like some religion that you had a bad experience with. Maybe these other words will help you recognize this thing that's inside all of us. So um, the reason I'm talking about this is it is related to the New Year's challenge I gave everyone. It might like enhance the experience for you, or give you um, like maybe open your eyes to like what's really going on when you complete the challenge. So it might even be more beneficial to listen to this after you complete the New Year's challenge, because you might be like, oh, like all these feelings and I had when I took this leap of faith and reached out and tried to love someone. Like that's what I was really tapping into. So having said all that, I will give you my definition of God, and how I think about that. And I'm just one person, this is just my own perspective. So a lot of you might have already thought about these things, or have see something I'm missing or something. And so we could have a discussion about this. But I want the main point of this podcast to be that New Year's challenge. So this is more like a supplementary topic. So when I talk about God, I'm talking about again this piece of you which you don't really control. And I'm talking about like what are your true like desires and interests in life, and what really makes you happy? Like what's your real dream for your life? And everyone's different. And and like why is that, you know? Everyone has hopes and dreams, but they're all a little bit different. And this kind of gets into the fundamental dilemma, I guess, of being a human being. Like you have these deep desires that are inside of you all the time, but it's like how much does your life really coincide with that? Um, how much are you paying attention to those desires versus like maybe more superficial things or like I mean the most common way to describe this is like are you living for money and power and fame, you know, these earthly things that you can't take with you, you know, when we all leave here. And they can disappear in 1 second for you. You know, if you have a huge fortune, like that can all disappear. Anything you have can can go away, but you have this part of you that's always there and it never goes away. And so that's like the more spiritual component of yourself. So we have this worldly component and we have this spiritual component. And so it's really this is the choice that we all have to make. And it's like which one are you living for? You know, are you going to live for the spiritual component that doesn't really have anything to do with the material world and like accumulating riches in that world, or are you going to feed this inner part of you, which it's going to give you more like internal rewards? And so that's really what if you do go and read like the New Testament or the Gospels or these other scriptures I'm going to talk about, that's really what they're talking about. And I mean they're all encouraging you to live for that inner part of yourself and sort of like you know everything else is going to work out somehow, but if you're happy on the inside, like you can pretty much handle everything. And over time, like you're going to start to realize like these deep dreams, you know, it's going to take years and years, decades maybe even, but that is like that's going to be fulfilling. That's the way you're going to reach fulfillment and happiness in life is by paying attention to that part of you. And I say this is the fundamental dilemma of being a human being because like that's really hard to do, you know. We all want things. We all want adoration from other people, and we want to please our senses and all that stuff. But what really makes us happy is when we pay attention to our conscience. That's one word I want to use to describe this thing is your conscience. And it's a hard decision to make, but it's more of like delayed gratification. Like you're gonna get the benefits from that a long time from now. Um, Instead of in the short term. So it takes a lot of thought, takes a lot of contemplation and practice, and just starting to introduce these ideas in your life and really paying attention to that. And Stevie Wonder actually has a great song about this that's called "If It's Magic," and he's like, you know, everyone's very careful and conscious of like how they pose for a photo and how they appear to other people. But you know, if we really value love and these other intangible things, like why don't we pay as much attention to that? So there's a reason why he wrote a whole song about that, and there's a reason why there's all these books written about it. Is like it's hard, but when you start to do that, you will start to get the benefits. And when you first taste the benefits of that, like you get a broader vision. You know, you get vision, you get that inner vision, and you can kind of see like the proper role of everything in your life and where everything should fit and where your real priorities should be and how you can be sustainably happy and find that sense of peace. So that's kind of my take on it. I do really like this metaphor that's in the Upanishads, which is a Hindu scripture. And I found out about this by reading Gandhi's autobiography. But so they talk about their name for God in the Upanishads is Brahman. And then, so that's basically the God that is like outside of you. So they would say like Brahman, you know, created the earth and the universe and all that. But they also talk about the Atman, which is the God that's inside of you. So this is that spiritual component of yourself, like I was talking about. And I just love this metaphor because it made it easy for me to understand what they were talking about. So the metaphor is there's these two birds in a tree, and one of them represents like that worldly part of you I was talking about, that we want like this fame and fortune and all that stuff. So they call that's your self, but it's your lowercase s self. And so that's one bird that's on this tree, and then the other bird that's on the tree is it represents this atman, like this connection to something bigger than you, and that they call yourself, but your uppercase s self. So the metaphor is your lowercase s self is this little bird. It's on all the branches. It's flying around. It's checking everything out. It's getting distracted. It's investigating everything. And then your uppercase s self is just sitting like close to the trunk of the tree, and it's just sitting there and like observing everything, like not even moving. Just kind of gazing out at everything, observing everything. And we all have that part of us. And when like everyone knows this, so this is what I'm talking about. Like we all know that thing. You can call it God if you want to or not, but we all have that part of us that's just always kind of there, and it never really changes. And so I think about this like, say you have like a really hectic day at work and everything was really stressful, and then like you get home and like I don't know, some appliance isn't working, or like maybe your car breaks down or something. It's just like everything's going wrong in your life, and it's just like, how can I even handle this? And maybe you just like throw up your arms and sigh and close your eyes and stuff. And it's like you take a deep breath, and then you can tap into that calm in the midst of everything. And so that's really what they're talking about. And that's important because with practice you can learn to identify more and more with that calm that's always inside of you. And it's never going to be 100%. Like there's always going to be challenges and obstacles thrown your way, but this is something that you can recognize more and more. And when you read the Upanishads, so these books are like, it's kind of like a user guide. Like, how do you identify with that part of yourself? And I mean, the good part about this is like, this is a personal journey for everyone. Nobody can do that for you, because it's literally you have a unique connection with that thing, and everyone's a little bit different. So these are here to help you, but there's other practices like meditation and deep belly breathing and stuff, and there's all different kinds of ways to identify with that. And over time, you're going to recognize that more and more, and deepen your connection with that. So I would encourage everyone to at least think about this, and I'll write a bunch of these books in the description of this podcast episode. And the reason why this is relevant to the New Year's challenge is that when you do the New Year's challenge, you're actually going to be identifying more with that Atman than the lowercase s self. Because think about all the reasons why you would text someone and ask them to share that coffee break with you or take a walk with you. And it's to satisfy that deeper place inside of you that wants to connect to other people and share life and enjoy life. There's no fame or money in any of that, but there is happiness, like a real sustainable, excuse me, happiness. And think about all the reasons why you wouldn't do that. Why wouldn't you text that person? And it's like, well, they might say no, they might not be there, they might laugh at me, they might think you know, I'm weak or something. They might think I'm just lonely and pathetic or whatever. And those are all things that your lowercase s self cares about. It's like basically your ego that cares about what other people think about you. But the uppercase s self doesn't care about any of that. Like none of that's even relevant. Because if you live your life to please other people, like other people's opinion can change in 1 second, depending on like what's fashionable. But what really makes you happy, like that's not going to change over time. So that's why all of this is contained in the New Year's challenge. And when you take that step and you reach out to someone just to share some time with them and connect with them, you're going to be acting on that Atman. And when you do that, like it's a big step, and you might it might surprise you what you get out of that. And it's going to surprise me. I'm really interested to see everyone's experience with this thing. So that's why I'm talking about this. And like I said, this might be more interesting to go back later and listen to. But this I wanted to talk about just because I might refer back to it later, and we have some time to kill while everyone's thinking about doing their New Year's challenge. Next, I want to talk about this subreddit that I created, and I did put out a special episode just telling everyone that I created it, but this is going to be a really important part of the New Year's challenge. And so this is in addition to what I talked about last week, because I thought of it after after that show. But this subreddit, this is how we're going to turn this into an actual like social movement that is it's really gonna catch on, and it's gonna just start sucking people in. Everyone's gonna want to be a part of this because everyone really needs this. You know, that 60% of Yale students, they're desperate for this. That was another thing about that podcast that my mom sent me. The teacher who created the happiness class, she thought it would be like for 40, I think 30 or 40 students, and a a quarter of the entire student body at Yale signed up for the class. So it it just shows you, everyone is really craving this, and so this is going to catch on in a big way, and the way it's going to catch on is when you do the New Year's challenge, whenever that is, whatever the month of the year it is, and I'm really being serious when I'm saying I'm not rushing you because this could be really hard for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of us have like we live in this society, and a lot of us have been like damaged or traumatized by other people. Like I'm sure all of us have had someone who mistreated us at some point, and making yourself vulnerable to someone could be really hard for a lot of us. I mean, why would you expose yourself to something bad? But the reality is, most people will want to love you, and most people aren't not going to mistreat you. And when you take these little tiny baby steps and make this as easy as possible for yourself, like make it as someone who you already know, like they're not going to judge you either way. And I want this to be a layup. Make it something that you don't even feel like it's hard for you, and that'll be your New Year's challenge. So, um, but it might take you a while to figure that out, or even start to think about doing this, and that's fine. I want you to take as much time as you need to feel really comfortable when you do this, and there's no time constraints. So just make sure you do a good job on this because that's what's going to make this really meaningful, and that's what's going to benefit other people more. Is if you really take your time and do something that's meaningful to you. So whenever you do that, and again, there's no rush. So I can talk about stuff endlessly while people are getting this up and running, but I would rather be reading your stories. I know they're going to come in eventually, so I'm not worried about it. But when you do the New Year's challenge, to really finish the challenge, you have to go write about it on the subreddit. And again, like I want everyone to be anonymous on there so that everyone feels comfortable sharing, like it's not going to come back to them. And I just want you to write like a simple thing about what you did. It could be 3 or 4 sentences. Um, if you want to write something long, like if this really was meaningful to you, like please do. I think that would be valuable for everyone else to read. But if you do the challenge and you, it's way better to write a short thing on the subreddit than to never write anything about what you did. Just so we're still going to get a taste of what this challenge was for you and what you went through to complete it. And so this is a you're not finished the challenge until you write at least a short thing on the subreddit about what you did and what it meant to you. Again, it could just be a couple sentences if you can express that in a few sentences. And I'm going to give you that badge, and then you're done. Then you don't have anything else to worry about. The reason why that's so important is that we need this to start happening on a big scale, a bigger scale, to improve our lives. Like you can start doing this in your own life, and that will start to improve things for you. And like you're going to be happier and feel more comfortable interacting with other people and everything. And that's great, but we really need our whole society to change. And once that starts happening, like this will all become easier for everybody. So when you write your story on the subreddit and like the first couple stories start trickling in, I mean, this is going to be just a constant news feed of like great news. So imagine what it's going to look like. It's like, hey, like I'm going for a walk with my neighbor every morning, and like here's what that meant to me. And then somebody else is going to be like, yeah, I'm getting coffee with a coworker once a week, and like we had these great conversations. I learned so much about them, and we're like doing this weekend, and it's just going to be story after story like that, but probably even better. Like I'm telling you, you guys are going to take this and run with this and do stuff that I can't even imagine. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. So um, it's going to be like the New York Times, but in reverse, where it's just like people's personal stories of really great news. And that's just going to be like just reading that is going to be so uplifting. Like there's actually something good happening. And that's going to inspire other people. And it's going to make it easier for them because they're going to see that people are out there doing this and that it's possible and the benefits and all that. So that's why it's so critical to claim your badge on the subreddit after you do the challenge. There's no cost to any of this, and this is all this is all to make my life better. But it's going to make all of our lives better. So I can't emphasize that enough, and I guess I just did. So that's the subreddit reminder. So the last segment of the show, I want to talk about how the podcast will end, which you might think is a little weird, but I think it's important to bring this up because I want to express how I see my role in all of this and how I see basically everyone else's role. And there's millions and billions of people on the planet, and I'm just one little tiny part of all this. So I have a specific role in. I really see this turning into a social movement that is. It's going to be like a vortex. It's just going to start pulling people in. They're not even going to know what's happening. My ultimate goal for this is like I walk out of my apartment or house one day and there's just like people singing and like holding hands and jumping. Kids are going to be playing in the street and stuff. And I'm going to be like, what's going on? They'll be like, oh, well, we're all like happy, and loving each other and enjoying life. I'm going to be like, oh, okay. So, that's the goal. And, there's that's going to take, it's going to take time, and that's going to involve a lot of other people, and that's stuff that I can't do. I can only do my own one little part. So my own little part is I see my role as like getting this thing kickstarted, getting it off the ground, helping with that. But once the subreddit starts taking off and all these stories are coming in and stuff, I mean, I don't own this idea, and this is like love's just going to pull people in. I mean, that's the attractive thing about it. It's nothing that I'm doing. I'm just putting this out there in a way that I think people can take concrete action on this thing, and everyone will have a can have a part that's very, like manageable and comfortable, for each person, and I have a manageable and comfortable role, which is just getting this started, and I want to just release this, out into the world, and I don't want to control where it goes at all because I have my own life and I have other stuff that I'm going to want to be doing where maybe I won't be around to do the podcast consistently or something. I do go on these trips where I don't have internet access for long periods of time, and so I don't want this to depend on me. And then on the other side, like it shouldn't depend on me because people aren't perfect. We can't have a single point of failure, which is just one person. Like this needs to be managed by the community and the people whose lives this has touched. And so relatively soon, I would even think about shutting down the the subreddit for this podcast specifically. And like once this thing gets going, like collectively as a group, like you all are, and I could help. We need to come up with a name for this thing that's happening, and some stuff I'm going to talk about that Gandhi did might help with that. But that needs to become like its own subreddit that I have nothing to do with. It's not managed by me in any way because it's going to be way more meaningful and significant if this is just managed by like the community, like the internet. And there could be even multiple subreddits about this movement that I think is going to happen. I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but I have a strong feeling that it will. And that's going to strengthen the this movement that I envision happening because if there's multiple subreddits or if there's one subreddit that's managed by many people, some of these subreddits have like a whole team of moderators, so that's going to be a lot more sustainable and durable than just this one that I'm managing right now. So what I'm managing, it's really like I guess the metaphor I was thinking is like it's the booster rocket, and at some point it's going to fall off, and then the rocket's really going to take off, and that's the more important part. And this podcast itself, so there could be like, so say there's like this other independent movement going on. There could be other podcasts about it, or like people might start just creating art about this thing that's going to happen. This love movement that I'm envisioning, and like you know musicians are out there, like they can write songs about it, or artists can create art like paintings or uh, digital art or something, and it's going to be way better and more meaningful if multiple people are like taking this and running with it and offering their own interpretation. And so I want all that to happen. I'm not claiming any ownership at all. Like the more people take on responsibility for this thing, then that makes my life easier. I uh, yeah, so that's really what I have to say about that. But that this is going to be a ways down the road. But I just want to make that clear right now that if this inspires you in some way and you want to take it and run with it, like please go and do it. That's going to make me happy. I'm not trying to control. I don't want to control this um, for my benefit and for the benefit of what I'm trying to create. So that's all I have to say about that. And finally, that's it for this show. MLK Day is coming up, and I want to do a special episode about agape love, which he talked a lot about. It's that non-romantic love that I was talking about last week. So stay tuned for that. Have a great weekend. That I hope everyone has off on Monday and can just spend all day listening to the podcast that I'm going to put out. But if you have the time and inclination to do other stuff, I hope you have a fun weekend, and I will talk to you later.